All right, welcome everybody. Free training Fridays or Thursdays coming back up to you guys. Today we're going to be focusing on stopping ignoring your activity list. Making sure you guys understand that that's a tool to help you guys out. We're going to be going through some of the functions that aren't quite obvious, maybe some ways to help clean up the list if it's gotten out of control. But ultimately, it's just to get you guys familiar and comfortable with where it is, what it is, how it works, how can you use it better, how can the people in your office interact with each other utilizing that activity list, and making sure that everybody is on the same page. So just like always, if you guys have questions, feel free to go ahead and just enter those in. We'll get to those towards the end of the session today, so feel free if you guys have any questions as we go through, go ahead and type those in. We'll address those towards the end. What I would like to do is just give you guys a little bit of a checklist here on what we're going to be covering today. What and where is the activity list? That's a big piece. Obviously, you got to know what it is, where it is, in order to utilize it correctly. So we're just going to give a basic overview on that. Some of the filters and searching options that we have available, refreshing and rebuilding our activity list because sometimes those things are needed. Utilizing the focus, the priority, and the type on the left-hand side of the activity list and what benefits we get from those. The viewing and sorting options, the well-kept secret of undocking and how that can affect the way that you guys utilize that. Are there activity list user rights that you can access? Some of the right-click options available. A little bit on the Crescendo integration. We're not going to go deep into that. There's not going to be any real screenshots on that, but you will be able to see some of where it ties into the activity list. And that's going to be kind of what we focused on. After this, if you guys have any additional questions, you can always visit us on our website, abacusnext.com/support. And if you guys want any information about the upcoming webinars, please feel free to go to abacusnext.com/webinars. Last thing I want to just bring up here real quick for you guys is we are hosting a users conference of sorts. It's called Abacus Maximus. It's held in Las Vegas. For those of you guys, OfficeTools users that have been with us for a little while, this is kind of the transitioned conference from what we've had every year. So here's some basics. It starts July 9th. And it goes until the 11th. Some basic pieces of information here. You can see right now the all access tickets, meaning all 3 days, 2 days in the reception are available for $595. So please contact us for more information on that. Please visit the website, take a look, see if it's something that you're interested in, abacusmaximus.com. It is still geared towards users, meaning that if we're going through these things, you have training questions, you have things that you want to talk with us about as far as utilizing the software better. There'll be Office Tools classes, there'll be outside application classes, things that you guys can sit in on and make sure that you guys are utilizing not just Office Tools correctly, but all of the Abacus Maximus software that we have, packaging things together, getting everything nice and streamlined. So feel free to take a look at abacusmaximus.com. Let us know if you need anything else or have any questions on that. We'll be more than happy to help you guys out on that. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and actually get into the system here. So stop ignoring your activity list. So in order to stop ignoring it, we need to know where it is, what it is, and that type of thing. So if you guys aren't familiar, Office Tools is actually broken into 3 different screens, or 3 pieces of the screen itself. The first is over here on the left, and we call this the contact list. So we're not going to get too deep into those types of things, but we do want to make sure that that main screen is located here. So this is the second piece. The main screen is driven based off of the tabs and the contacts that you have selected. But the third piece is the activity list, and that's this section down here at the bottom, and it runs the entire span of most screens. So the activity list is a staff-specific list of activities that show each person what is assigned to them and what they need to focus on actually working on. Okay, so the key there is that it's a staff-specific list, not a client-specific list. So when you're looking at your list, when you first log into the program, you should see your name in the bottom left down here. And the tasks that show up in the activity list will be your tasks that you need to actually accomplish. So as you guys work through all the different tabs inside of Office Tools, as you guys are going through to-dos and calls and appointments and projects, those types of actions are going to be popping up down on the activity list down here at the bottom when you assign them to your staff members. So this is basically kind of like the staff members dashboard. So you want to make sure that people are aware of this. A lot of times when you first open up Office Tools, the program, it opens separate, so it might not be blatant or obvious. And we'll kind of circle back around to that in a little bit here. But that's what the activity list is and where it's located. Typically, it's going to be at the bottom of your screen, and it's going to be a staff-specific list of activities that are applicable at that moment in time. So we have a couple things that I want to just bring to your attention on the activity list itself. So, as you can see, when it really boils down to it, you guys are going to be working through this. There's going to be a lot of items that are coming through onto your activity list. And what you're going to want to use is a combination of all of the different tools that are available on the activity list itself to make sure that you're not overwhelmed by the amount of items that might be on that list. So the first thing, which surprisingly not a lot of people know about, and obviously not a lot of people utilize, is the search box that's located in the left-hand corner of the activity list itself. A lot of people find that the search bar, they think that it's for the contact list, or they think that it's for something in the main screen, but it isn't. It actually is for the activity list itself. So if you wanted to search something, so I'm going to drop this down and choose a different staff member here, or all staff members. If I wanted to find anything in my activity list that said proposal, I can go to my search box and type in the word proposal here. And as you can see, it filters down my activity list to that specific task. If I had more than one task in that list that said proposal, then it would have all of those items filled in there. So utilizing that search box is a good way to make sure that the items on your list are what you want to focus in on. So if you type in copies, for example, you'll notice it filters down to the copies. Now, for those of you guys who do know about the search bar and have used it, one thing that even the people who use the search bar may not be aware of is that it actually handles a negative search, meaning that you can prefix your search criteria with the minus sign, and it will actually get rid of anything that you type in at that point. So if you wanted to remove everything that says proposal, you could go in, type in proposal, and it will actually get rid of only the task that said proposal, but it leaves the other two. So that's something that you guys want to be aware of. It's not just a search for something. It can also be a kind of an inverse search that gets rid of things. So if you're coming close to your tax deadline, for example, if you're in the accounting industry and you're trying to get rid of all the 1040 things that are popping up on your list right now because you got to focus in on a couple other things in the morning, you can go in there, type minus 1040, and it will get rid of all the tasks that have 1040 in the description, which will bring your search to something a little bit more specific. So again, make sure that you guys utilize that search option. It has the capability of searching for something, and it has the capability of removing something specific out of the list as well. Now, even on top of that, there's also the capability right next to it. This little magnifying glass isn't just to signify that this is a search field. It also has some options in there. So if you click on that little magnifying glass, it says description, contact / company, and staff. And what this means is what's included in the search. So if I don't want contact or staff to be part of my search criteria when I type something in here, then you want to uncheck them. That way, if you start typing in something that resembles a staff name or resembles a company name, it will remove it from the actual search criteria. Not from the list itself, but from the search information actually applying to that company name or to that staff member's name. So just again, a way of making sure that what you're searching for yields the results of what you actually want to find. So make sure that you're using that in combination. Make sure that everything that you want to actually search into is turned on. Make sure that you remember you can search minuses inside of here as well. And that will help you again begin to stop ignoring this list and make sure that you guys are using this as a tool. So we have a couple little symbols here that we want to just discuss really quickly here. These four things right here. So the first is the print. And what this does is it basically just takes whatever is on your activity list at that moment with whatever filters and whatever source that you've applied, and it will print it out into a crystal report for you. So it's not anything complex. It's not anything that shows anything different than what's on screen. It just takes what you have currently displayed on your activity list and prints it out. That's what that's for. Okay. So if you want a paper copy or you're taking something into a weekly team meeting or something like that, then you can go ahead and print whatever's on that activity list and make sure that you have it filtered and sorted prior to actually going in and printing it. Next icon to the right here is a rebuild option / refresh option. So these two things can help you make sure that something or multiple things are being refreshed, being rebuilt. A lot of times you might find within OfficeTools, depending upon certain environment settings or your speed and the way that you're doing things, that something is not popping up or something is not going away. It comes up every now and then. It's not something that should be very common. If it's common that things aren't popping up or things aren't going away, then that's something you can contact our support team for. But if you have something, you did a mass change to something and it's not refreshing the activity list, you can always utilize this symbol to refresh. Now, refresh just basically does a quick little refresh, goes through and makes sure that everything that's there should be there. Rebuilding is what most people will do here, and that actually goes through and rebuilds that activity list from scratch. So it goes and looks for anything that should be on the list and pre-populates it. So effectively, think of it as kind of cleaning it off and then resetting the table. Okay. Now, tricky thing for that is one click tends to be a refresh. If you hover over it, you can see that. Double click to rebuild the activity list. Now, right now, just so you guys know, there is a little bit of a tricky situation there. You do have to click on this icon until you see your progress bars pop up, which may be more than just a double click in certain instances. So just be aware of that. If you don't see progress bars that pop up, that means you didn't get to the rebuild stage. So click it until you have your progress bar pop up and it runs through that information. So just make sure, again, that you guys realize that not everything that shows up or doesn't show up on there is supposed to be there. So every now and then it's good practice to go ahead and just rebuild it, make sure that everything's nice and clean, and try that before calling our support team. If something is not showing up or something is not going away, that's a good tool as kind of a self-help to make sure that activity list is where it should be. Now, the next icon in this list is this little single arrow right here. And you can see, click to undo the last activity list completion. So it's an undo icon here. Now, one thing to remember is that it's specifically for undoing completions, not undoing anything. So if you delete a contact and you go down and click the undo button in the activity list, it's going to undo the last completion, not undo your contact deletion. Okay, so make sure that you understand that the undo only applies to the activity list and the item that was completed last. Okay, so if you went down here and you accidentally clicked this phone call, off your list, and you need to get it back, you can just click that undo, and you'll notice that it puts it back on the activity list down here. So again, remember that it is not a global undo like Word or anything like that. This is specific for the activity list and items that have been accidentally or prematurely completed that you need to pull back onto your list and make sure is available. Okay, so it's specific for the activity list. Now, On the left-hand side of the activity list, we have some sets of options here. We have a staff member option, we have a focus, a priority, and a type. And these things can be used, again, to make sure that this list just doesn't become overwhelming, which is part of the reason why you're probably ignoring your activity list. It's because it probably says right here, like 350 items for however many hours. That probably seems like you can't overcome it. So utilizing these tools will help whittle down that list for a short period of time, help you focus in on something outstanding, and making sure that you guys are using this list, again, as a tool, and it's not hindering you in the long run. So under the staff, you have a group, you have admin, which is a staff member, Brandon, John, and Tira. All four of us are staff members. Then you can choose everyone, which is what we currently have selected, or you have a group option, which is where you can come in over here and actually choose a group. Now, if you choose all or you choose a group, just understand that on the activity list itself, it's going to be prefixed by the initials of the staff member who that task actually belongs to. So just keep that in mind. If you do choose all, which is again what I have selected at this point, it will show me the initials of the staff member who owns that task. Your focus allows you to get something specific as far as date-driven items, because what you have to think about on the activity list here is that the tasks themselves and how they show up on this activity list is a derivative of the actual due date of that task. So when you're talking about dates, you got to make sure you keep it in context of the due date. So you can see in here, inbox, unread, in progress, due today, due tomorrow, due this week, overdue. You can manually choose the date range, or you can choose assigned by. So you have kind of a few options inside of here. I want to draw your attention to a few items in here just to make sure you guys are aware of. Number one, a very common question we get is, I chose all tasks, but not all the tasks that I have are showing up on my activity list. One thing you guys have to be aware of in this section is that all tasks just does not mean that you're going to see everything that's currently assigned to you. All tasks means that you're going to see all of the tasks that are set to be on your activity list right now. So in a task, you have an item that says due date, as you can see up here. And then over here, you have a reminder section that says add to activity list one day, and then it says prior to that due date. So in this instance, the due date is 3/29, which happens to be today's date. And then add to activity list says one day prior, which means that this task is set to show up right now. So when I choose all tasks, it should pop up down here. If I switched my due date to a different date, like in the future, let's just say Monday, and I hit save, you'll notice that that task removes from the list, even though I have all tasks selected. Okay? So keep that in mind. All tasks basically follows your add to activity list option rules. So just keep that in mind. Very common question that we get there. The other thing is when you want to override that. So if you want to get something closer to all tasks, something that actually shows more than what's set to be on your activity list at this moment, then you can utilize the date range option. And what this allows you to do is go in and choose a from and a to, and remember this is in context of the due date itself. And you can open up past what your original add to activity list options are. So in this instance, guys, this task that we have set to for 4/2, which is Monday, and then add to activity list one day, which should technically be popping up on Sunday. It's back up on my activity list right here, saying it's due in 4 days, because I have a date range that includes that due date. So if you want to expand farther than what is currently set on your activity list, then you're going to choose your date range option to get there. And those are the two really important things to remember inside the focus area. Everything else should be relatively self-explanatory, but just remember, all tasks shows tasks that are set to show up now. Due date or date range will allow you to go past what's currently on your list and see stuff that's coming up in the future. Priority is not very commonly used, but this does allow you to filter which priorities you see on your activity list. The priority on the activity list is located here in these drop-down menus where you see these threes on the far right-hand side of these tasks. That's where the priority is. Overall and in general, priorities should be avoided unless everybody is going to be prioritizing everything. If that's not the case, then you're going to run into a scenario where one staff member is prioritizing all of their tasks, another staff member isn't, and it's causing a discrepancy in what actually needs to get done. So most of the time people focus in on due date, but if you do have a good system in place for utilizing priority, then you can use the filter to get something specific on your activity list. Last but not least on this section, guys, is the type. The type allows you to control which type of tasks show up on your activity list. So you can choose to have assignments show up but not calls, or calls show up but not to-dos, or just your appointments. You can kind of check the items that you want on your activity list at any given moment, and that will make sure that, again, this list becomes something that you can utilize. So if you want to focus in on just your project assignments, then make sure that box is checked. If you want to get a quick snapshot of all the projects that are coming up due that are assigned to you, then check the projects option. If you want to focus in on returning all of your phone calls, again, make sure that you choose your calls option. So you have a way of making sure that you're seeing what you'd like to see. General rule of thumb here is you want to try to make sure that all of your boxes are checked for the most part until you want to focus in on something specific. Okay? Because nothing pops up or reminds you that something else came on your list if it's not checked to show. So you got to make sure that for the most part, most of these remain checked at all times. You use this to filter down for a specific action. And that's your focus, your priority, and your type. Now, view and sort. So we have these view and sorts. These are important to utilize as well. All of this kind of contributes to stopping that ignoring of the activity list, making sure that you're utilizing it as a tool. Under the view option, here's one of the number one problems that come along with people thinking things aren't showing up. The view should almost always be set to the due date. Not the project due date, but the regular due date. Some people go to assign date, that's okay too, but due date should be what it selects. If you guys choose anything that says project, it will remove any task that is not associated to a project, which we get a lot of calls about. People complaining that things aren't showing up on their activity list. It's because in a lot of cases, they either on purpose or accidentally ended up choosing one of the project options in the view, and that actually removes anything that's not associated to a project. So if they create a new to-do and they don't associate it to a project, then it will not show up on the activity list. So just remember that. Almost always, you should have due date selected. That's really the big piece of information there. Outside of that, that stuff should be relatively straightforward. Okay. The only other thing I want to bring your attention to on these, your views and your sorts, okay, because these should be relatively straightforward, is that if you click on an item again in the view or the sort section, just understand that that inverses the order. A lot of people don't know that, and they end up with the list in the order that, the opposite order that they want it in. If you go into the view or the sort, it will reverse the order in which your tasks are displayed. So if you want it in ascending and it's currently in descending, then just go back into your view and your sort and click on it, the same option again. Okay, and that will reverse the order of your activity list. Next thing is actually undocking the activity list, which is something that you guys should all know about. It's the hidden benefits of the undock feature. If you don't know, the undock is also available on the schedule tab, so make sure that you go look for that on the schedule section. But the undock can be found right over here on the right hand side. It's this little symbol with a square and another little square with an arrow pointing out. Okay. Again, you'll see the same symbol on the schedule tab. If you click on that, what that does is actually opens up the activity list into its own window. This has all of the same functions and features that we've discussed earlier, but it just allows you to see more of the screen at one time. Currently, the industry standard for accounting, at least, is 4 monitors on each workstation. I know some of you guys are probably scoffing at that, but it is the industry standard. If you do have more than 1 monitor, this is helpful because you can put this on another screen and continue working within OfficeTools because this is a live screen. Okay? So I can go back to the program and keep working within the system while having my activity list up and visible in a lot more fashion there. So it's not limited to 6 or 7 items. Instead, you can see a lot more here, and it allows for a lot better management. Okay? All of the same features are there, though. The views, the sorts, the focus, the priority type, searching within the list, all of that is all there. So you guys can make sure to utilize that appropriately. We have about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to jump in and see if there's any questions at this point, and then we'll kind of revisit, if we have some extra time, a couple of the last items on the list here. But let's see, we have will we be getting a recording of this webinar as well as the slides? That's something that you can email me about if you would like. Just email the training email address at OfficeTools, so that's training@officetools.com. And we'll be more than happy to try to get you some of this. As far as the recording itself, just let us know. We'll try to get you that if it's available. How did you re-add a project that was completed too early? So completion of something off of your activity list can happen utilizing the undo option here. If it was completed somewhere else, if it was completed within the project or anything like that, then it won't uncomplete. But this allows you to undo the last activity list completion. So just make sure you understand that. It's not going to just undo anything that was completed. It's specific to uncompleting something that was completed on the activity list itself. Are you able to mark a project completed that is assigned to a coworker by going into their activity list? So that jumps into the user rights section. Most of the time, all of your staff should have access to each of other people's activity lists. Technically, they are allowed to complete things off of somebody else's list. That just helps out with staff members who call out sick or staff members that maybe aren't in the office that day. You have another person going in and working on their items. That's how you can work off of their list, complete some items that might be assigned to them. So yes, technically, if they have the user right under contacts, if you guys go to your user rights section under contacts, it says activity list manager. If they are an activity list manager, they can access and complete items from other people's activity lists. But the caveat to that is that it records completed by the staff member who completed it, not the staff member who was assigned to. And any time cards that pop up will also be related to the person who completed it, not the person who it was assigned to. So to understand that is that you're not completing it for the other person, you're completing it for yourself, and then all of the information kind of goes along with that accordingly. How do you undelete a contact? Is there an undo option for the top section? Unrelated to the activity list, it depends on whether you hid it or you permanently deleted it. You can access your hidden contacts list, but there is no undo. So unrelated to the activity list, but it depends a little bit on the process that you went through for your contacts. If you have more questions on that, feel free to email us again, training@officetools.com. I'm more than happy to assist you in that manner. That brings us right to 10:30, guys. If you do have any additional questions, again, please email us, training@officetools.com. Again, we'll be more than happy to help you guys out with anything that you guys need. Again, abacusnext.com/webinars. Take a look and see what's upcoming. If you guys have other questions or other things that you want to address to get to know, jump in on those webinars. And then, again, keep in mind that Abacus Maximus conference coming up. Go take a look at that website and see if it's something you might be interested in. Thanks again for joining, and we'll see you guys next week.